I was being targeted.
Deepfakes have gotten so good and so easy to produce these days.
I was 15.
I was 14.
Create this whole world of sexual abuse around them.
I immediately started crying. I just felt violated.
It made me so angry that they could just sit back and go, sorry, there's no law, so it's okay.
The law is always playing catch up.
You can't remove it, you can't escape from it.
How would you feel if you saw a deepfake like that of your mother, your sister, or your daughter?
What would you do if someone told you there was a naked image of you out there, but you never took one? With advances in AI technology, creating fake images has never been easier. The growing concerns of sexually explicit deepfakes are real and are making news headlines around the world, from the US, the UK, Australia, South Korea, and here in Canada. But what exactly are deepfakes?
I'm actually not Jake. I'm a deepfake Jake, a deep Jake, if you will.
Real life Jake here now.
Deepfakes can be any content that uses artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques to manipulate audio, video, or image of a person that appears convincingly real, like the viral TikTok video of Tom Cruise.
What's up, internet? I'm north of the border, eh?
Or this photo of Pope Francis wearing a white puffer jacket made by using an AI art tool. While those fakes are funny, the vast majority are not. From the most famous woman in the world to every woman on the street, deepfakes can affect any one of us.
Let me begin with a question. Can I get a show of hands who here has ever Googled themselves?
I was 18 and I just did a Google search of myself. Randomly, I literally had no idea what I would see or what I would find. And I saw so many links of me and images of me that had been taken from social media, then posted on these pornographic sites.
Noelle Martin, a researcher and lawyer living in Australia, has spoken up about her experiences since the first images appeared online more than a decade ago. At a TEDx talk, she said,
"This is me, at around 19 at the Claremont Hotel, just a few suburbs away. And they superimposed that face into this. And things got worse."
2 videos that I know of. One depicting me having sexual intercourse with my full name in the title, and another one depicting me performing oral sex. And then you discover how bad it is, how many people are seeing it, how many people are commenting on it. As I look back, the abuse that I experienced in terms of all these perpetrators appropriating my face and my body and my image in the most horrific ways might have been the easiest part of the journey. The second hardest thing, actually, was dealing with the court of public opinion and the hate and the victim blaming and the slut shaming that comes with speaking out about this. It's been quite a lonely fight for those that have been fighting it.
How did you try to fight back? Like, how did you even know how to navigate that?
So I did go to the police. I did call government agencies. I did try and, look at how to get a private investigator. But there were no specific laws at the time that dealt with this issue. I was effectively told to go and try and take down these sites myself. And so that's what I did for goodness knows how long. That was just a futile process.
In a report from CSIS, Canada's National Security Agency, more than 90% of deepfakes available online are non-consensual pornographic clips of women. And as of October 2022, there were over 57 million hits for deepfake porn on Google alone. Requests to undress people using AI technology have increased by more than 2,000% on platforms including Reddit and X since the beginning of 2023. Noelle is one of many women and girls around the world fighting to be heard. In the US,
my images were not considered child pornography, even though they were. When I clicked the link, I saw my face on a pornographic video. But when I sought help, the system failed me.
We need swift and decisive action. We need this bill to pass to protect us.
Canada, too, is dealing with the rising deepfake issue.
But one photo took a happy memory that we had together into I never want to look at that photo again.
As some Toronto high school students discovered.
Can you take us back to the day that this happened?
It was in the evening and I opened a text from my friend. Not much context, there was just a picture in the chat of me, my friend, and one of our other friends. It was a picture that had a good memory to it, except it had been altered to make us completely naked.
How many images would you say?
We still don't know. There was a screen recording of his phone, and there was just like picture after picture after picture. I immediately started crying. Just felt violated.
Among students, concerns about sexually explicit deepfakes are rising.
The nude AI generators that youth get their hands on and think it's funny to produce, an AI-generated image of a kid in school. That issue has exploded, and we're dealing with schools right across the country.
The number of students affected in this case is alarming.
There could have been way more than 13 girls, but we just couldn't identify a lot of them because it was mixed in with so much actual porn.
And the details are disturbing.
It was clearly my face on some porn star's body out there.
There were 3 people in the pictures, and we still had our shoes on, and everything else had been taken away and accentuated, and it was just so ridiculous.
Hers was sickening. I actually had to double back and be wait a minute. No offense, sorry.
The deepfake of me was from a picture I posted of myself in a beach bathroom in a bathing suit with my cousin beside me, also in her bathing suit, and then the deepfake cropped my cousin out, and then my bathing suit is just off. It's actually crazy how realistic it was.
Oh God, it's weird because it's kind of like uncanny valley.
When you saw the image, what went through your mind?
To know they were in someone else's possession, it was just disgusting.
Just crying and crying.
I genuinely didn't believe it until I was shown the hard video of his phone with a naked picture of me and her.
I still worry about the pictures getting out. I don't know if they're actually gone, and photos can't really fully be gone. Digital footprint's a thing.
How did that impact your mental well-being?
Right after that, I completely stripped all my social media. I blocked a bunch of people, but I was just very, very aware of how I was perceived online.
I was just so extremely paranoid about social media and about pictures of me. I was just so overwhelmed all the time. I was 15.
I was 14.
Wow.
In the original photo.
Some of the students know the boy who allegedly created the deepfakes.
I was just hurt because once it did click in my brain that he does have them and he probably did make them, my immediate instinct was to go and talk to him about it. So that day I went to his house and there's already a police car there. One of the other mothers of another girl that was involved had already called the police on him to just get him to delete the photos, which was a bad idea because then the evidence was gone.
By the time that the police got to him, they were like, oh, nope, we can't check. Everything's gone. Why did it take you so long to check?
And I sit down on his couch and I immediately break down. And I'm like, why would you do that? I still considered him one of my closer friends who I could confide in and who I trusted. And then he didn't have any answers for me. He was looking at me like I was like a ghost because he was apologizing to me relentlessly after I'd gone to his house. He was like, I'm so sorry, but I didn't do it. I'm so sorry, but I didn't do it. After a while, he flips from being apologetic to being aggressive. So the last messages he sent me was, I don't know why you believe all your stupid friends, you pathetic creature.
There was such bizarre stories made up to try and justify what had happened, and it was so obvious that he was scrambling because he didn't expect it to come out, or he didn't expect so many of the girls to find out what he had done.
Did you tell your parents?
Yeah, I told my dad right away, and then I called my mom, and they were both enraged.
I told my dad first, and then I actually wanted to hold off from telling my mom because I knew she would have the hardest time dealing with it.
It was really difficult for me to tell my mom. I feel like I kind of held off. I just felt so ashamed and embarrassed. I didn't even want to tell my mom. My older sister told my mom for me.
There was a group chat that was made with all the girls, and all of us decided together that we would want to go to the police about it because we wanted some sort of justice from it. I think 10 of us at the time went to the police station together with our parents. And then once all of us were interviewed, they called us all in together, put up a PowerPoint presentation. It kind of sounded hopeful when they did the whole thing, and then it just ended with, well, this isn't illegal, so.
Did they tell you why it was not illegal?
Because we didn't send them around. It's not illegal, but then we asked if he showed people, would that be illegal? And they said yes.
We know for a fact that he would be like, oh, dude, look what I got, and then go and just kind of flash his phone screen. And that's how most of the guys saw it.
And we knew people that he showed them to. When they got that point, that we were like, well, it would be illegal because he showed people. Then it turned to, well, taking a minor to court is really hard and it would get dismissed anyway.
They thought it was a clear-cut case, but in reality,
since it was never proven that he shared the photos,
it was legal.
It was legal. And since he made them himself for his own use,
it was legal.
It was legal. They warned us not to share the photos anymore, even between ourselves, all the victims, because
we could get charged.
Yeah, that would be distribution. And it's such an odd place to be because if the photos weren't shared with us, we wouldn't have known about them. We all wouldn't have been there
if zero evidence,
the photos weren't shared. It's just a very weird in-between.
While there are robust child pornography laws in Canada under the Criminal Code that could cover AI-generated material and publication of an intimate image without consent laws, also known as revenge porn, the term deepfake is not yet explicitly clear in the Criminal Code, and in the case of minors who produce it, it's still an evolving area.
What was it like for you to hear from the police that there was nothing that they could do?
I looked at them with disbelief. Are you kidding?
It made me so angry that they could just sit back and go, sorry, there's no law, so it's okay. If they had at least reached out to the people that we mentioned to them and said, hey, can you come and make a statement? If they'd done that one step, they could have had enough people and evidence to say, okay, maybe he did show all these guys the photos. And they didn't because they didn't want to.
While the Toronto Police Service cannot speak to the specific details of the girls' case, in a statement, the TPS said, while gaps in the law can make it difficult to lay charges in some circumstances, this in no way diminishes the trauma experienced by victims, and it recognizes the potential challenges posed by deepfake and AI-generated content. Current investigations involving deepfakes are handled on a case-by-case basis.
How did your school respond?
Well, he went to my school, so I saw him the day before I found out. My school did not respond very well. There was a good amount of girls from my school. So we all decided together with our parents to go see the principal to tell him about the situation. So his solution was to let us work in a classroom by ourselves, away from everybody, go to the washroom in the office. There's times I'd ask to go for a walk and I'd get no. I didn't do well on my exam because I couldn't sit down in one place for more than 10 minutes and just study and focus on math. His thing was, well, you'll pass the class no matter what. Our grades are important. We can't just let them just pass.
Almost like you were inconveniencing him
by
bringing up the problem.
It was just oh, we're bringing him stress.
In contrast to what happened to the other schools involved, I think our school handled it really, really great.
My vice principal, my guidance counselor, and the social worker at the time, they were really amazing. They offered us a lot of support. Our school board still didn't enforce any real consequences. He's still walking around it's just another day.
In a statement, the Toronto District School Board said it takes allegations of sexually explicit content involving students, regardless of how it is generated, very seriously and reports all instances to police as set out in our policies and procedures. In this case, the schools took immediate steps to address the very serious allegations on the day they became aware of them, while understanding how difficult this must be for the impacted students. It adds, the TDSB is aware of the dangers of this behavior, and we are actively working to educate students about the harm caused when this happens. The boy who allegedly made the photos transferred to another school.
If someone said to, just get over it, I'm never going to. I'm never going to. I'm never going to forget about this. It was traumatic. I was sexualized by one of my friends, and he made a deepfake nude of me. I'm never going to be able to answer all the what ifs of this picture, where it is, who has it, who's seen it. So how can I really get over that?
It's absolutely ridiculous. A photo like that can exist and people can be like, oh, well, it's actually not real, so why do you care? Okay, because it's my face. It's my face that you're looking at. It doesn't matter if it's not my body. Everybody knows it's not real. The point isn't that it's not real. It's the point that it is to your human eye. It is what you're looking at. It's my face on a naked body. So your mind's just gonna put that together.
Governments around the world are struggling to respond to deepfakes, often citing free speech concerns and different jurisdictions, making it harder for victims to navigate the legal system.
The harm is real. There's no question about that. I don't think anyone's disputing harm.
Jordan Donich is a Toronto lawyer in criminal defense and civil litigations.
The problem for us, though, is we're stuck with what the law is and the framework at the time. I think what you see with this particular issue is the same as what you see when technology arrives in a lot of other areas. The law is always playing catch up.
But what needs to change?
I think we'll need some examples, which I'm sure will come, from judgments for damages. It's just a question of time before somebody sues or gets the law pushes in civil court for these types of behaviors, and a court will award damages. And we saw that in Ontario with revenge porn.
Do you think that the criminal code should be changed to protect people who are being deepfaked in harmful ways?
When you're trying to understand what the law should do, this is how I think a lot of judges look at it. They take a step back and they say, do we want this happening in society? Is this something we want people doing? Do we want people to be able to just create pornography about anyone, anytime, and publish it anywhere? If it sounds wrong, it usually is. So I think there will be some legislation at some point, for sure. Where we're going to have the problem is the same as we have with child sexual abuse material, and it's going to be around the enforcement. How do we enforce the behavior, and how do we make sure that if it is created, we catch the offenders and prevent its dissemination?
What is the solution?
It's probably technology, right? So we have a lot of rules already. We have rules everywhere to prevent all kinds of behavior. So I think what we need is good technology to be able to catch up to what's being used to create the deepfakes in the first place. Some form of technology, I'm sure, will be created to almost seek and destroy the content, which is really, I think, the only way you get rid of it.
The 40 biggest deepfake abuse sites have amassed over 4 billion views.
According to data collected by independent researcher Geneviève O, who has tracked the rise of sexually explicit deepfake trends.
There has been an exponential increase in the creation and the access of these videos and these sites. Google in particular directs traffic to them.
Google has responded with how they're addressing explicit fake content on their search engine by making it easier for people to remove this content from search, and to its ranking systems by keeping this type of content from appearing high up in search results.
So when we ask Canadians who they think is actually responsible for what's going on now, most people say that it is the tech companies that are responsible. They're the ones who have your information and they choose what they do with it.
Angus Lockhart is a senior policy analyst at the Dais think tank in Toronto.
Most people don't expect the tech companies to be able to solve it. The incentives that exist for tech companies are to profit, to sell your data, and so most people don't expect them to make any changes on their own. So when we're talking about who can make the landscape better, it tends to come down to the government making and intervening in these platforms and the way they operate to make sure that they're operating in the best interest of you and not just their bottom line. The Online Harms Act is a proposed piece of legislation, so it hasn't passed yet.
How would you describe that act?
The goal is to prevent people from sharing hateful content from sharing harmful content, including sort of non-consensual intimate images. It would require platforms take down this material if it gets posted publicly, but it wouldn't provide any kind of path to damages or compensation for the person who actually had their images posted. Some provinces so far do have some laws in place limiting the spread of non-consensual intimate images created by AI technology, so altered images, but it's pretty rare. We're in Ontario. There's nothing like that in Ontario.
Law enforcement is also facing new challenges.
With the advent of AI-generated images, our task to differentiate between real and synthetic victims adds yet another element to our efforts.
My name is Tim Brown. I'm a detective staff sergeant with the Ontario Provincial Police. I work in the Child Sexual Exploitation Unit. The definition of child pornography, as it states in the Criminal Code, is quite clear. It depicts a person under the age of 18 years, and it has to be for a sexual purpose. So a cartoon can be created that qualifies or meets the definition of child pornography as per the Criminal Code. So it's not just limited to real people in real life situations. We now find offenders using this technology to create child sexual abuse material or to take images from real kids in real life and use that artificial intelligence to create child sexual abuse material around their face.
Currently in Canada, there are at least 2 known court cases involving sexually explicit deepfakes of a minor. In 2023, a judge sentenced a Quebec man in his 60s to more than 3 years in prison for making child pornography using deepfake technology. The man had created at least 7 deepfake videos and possessed more than 500,000 child pornography files. In his ruling, the judge wrote, "The use of deepfake technology by criminals is chilling. This type of software makes it possible to commit crimes that could involve practically every child in our communities." The second case involved a BC man in his 30s, convicted for making and possessing child porn. In one instance, he used a deepfake app to make a teen girl naked. Police also determined the offender planned to modify approximately 150 photos of children using the deepfake app. He received a conditional sentence of 2 years, less a day.
Number one thing will be access to computer or electronic devices.
All of our investigators at some point are subject to going through the data that we seize and going through every image, every video that's on those hard drives, thumb drives, computers, whatever it is, to try to pick out and identify what is child sexual abuse material and what is not.
We're going to see if we can access this phone on scene, and then we're going to do a live preview of the contents to see if there's anything the investigators would be interested in reviewing.
Police, search warrant!
Kind of the most shocking thing to me is how quickly offenders engage online. We had an offender, one of our UC operators engaged, and within an hour and a half of initially engaging, that person was arrested in real life. You never kind of get used to that, or just the way people and the appetite people have to try to engage with kids for a sexual purpose. And so while artificial intelligence is up and coming and the artificial generation of this type of material is up and coming, we are still very much occupied, and our priority is identifying real kids who are being sexually abused here in Ontario.
Police, search warrant!
We get asked quite a bit, what platforms are the worst platforms? And there is no such thing as a worst platform. What we find is that wherever the kids happen to be, then that's where the offenders are going to be. One of the key things that we've realized in Ontario, and it's not just Ontario, it's any law enforcement agency really around the world that investigates child sexual abuse, that this is a community problem to solve. We're not going to really enforce our way out of this. And we recognize that it's not just law enforcement that's a part of this solution. It's private industry, it's other government agencies, it's communities, it's families, it's the kids themselves. And so the biggest tool we have against that, as it always is education. Kids who are creating deep fakes need to understand that this isn't a temporary thing that happens and then disappears. This could be around forever. And again, I mean, the question you always want to ask yourself, is this something that I would want somebody to do to me? And if the answer to that is no, then the answer to yourself is to not do it to somebody else.
Do you worry about him doing it again?
He's a very troublesome person, and throughout the years, things that he's like allegedly done have just gone like worse and worse and worse. And it feels like extremely alarming behaviors that should be waving like a massive red flag in front of people.
I've thought a lot about what he needs and how his life is also a life, and it's just, he's got issues, and I can't really be furious with him anymore because he didn't get the help that he needed, and that's why we're in this position. Because I don't want to be scrolling through the internet in 20 years and see, oh, he's killed someone. Like, it's just the string of events that's led to this moment is now, like, looking back, I don't even know how we missed it. He needs actual serious help, and the court system failed him and us.
Why did you want to speak up about this?
If my story, our story, can help other people, like, you know, educate them even just a little bit more, I feel like that's progress.
For specifically young girls, to be very mindful of who you allow on your social media, to keep accounts private.
I don't want people to have to be scared the way that we were scared. Like, I don't want that. I want sex offenders to be scared of sex offending. Like, I cannot let people live around me in fear of posting a photo on a beach. Like, it's so ridiculous. Not even in a beach. Maybe you're in a snowsuit.
What would justice look like to you?
I wish that there would be some acknowledgement for his actions and he would get actual, like, consequences for it. And then I wish that he would get help.
It really should be a wake-up call that things need to change. The laws need to keep up. It needs to be moving faster.
Justice would look like the perpetrators of this abuse being held accountable in some way. And I think we need to live in a world where digital platforms have a duty to protect people online and to operate safe services and products. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to self-censor in any way or limit their participation online in any way. I don't want people to not be posting things, not be participating in the social, cultural life of our times out of fear that this could happen.
As concerns around AI deepfakes increase, how we choose to use and regulate these tools will make all the difference. We must engage and use this technology responsibly, an approach which will require education, innovative solutions, and regulation. To continue the conversation on the thread, join us here and online, and we'll see you next time.